we go. All right, guys, we're going to talk about 10 ways to help your child eat faster in the school cafeteria. If you've ever been to a public school cafeteria or even into a little preschool classroom with 20-something kids all trying to eat together, you know that it can be pretty chaotic and, these kids are easily distracted, right? So I'm going to be showing you a few ways to pack lunch that will help your kids eat a little bit faster. And then I'll be sure to share some other videos in the comments and on my YouTube channel. You'll sometimes see them up here on the left-hand corner. I'll add those as little side notes for you to get additional information. You can find a lot of information in my book, Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater, and also in Adventures in Veggieland as well. Okie doke, you ready? The first one is the best, so I hope everybody's listening. And first thing I want you to do is get some of these little Post-it tabs. You know what these are, right? They just pop right out like little Post-it notes, but they have this sticky side, and then they have a side that doesn't have sticky on it. And they're made for, let me show you. They're made for marking the pages of the book, but they won't mark up the paper itself. You can just take them right off and they won't hurt it. I use these all the time when I'm taking notes, but now I use them when I'm helping kids with pack their own lunch or helping parents pack a lunch to get their kids to open packages faster. Let me show you how they work. Put that back. Okay, so here's a good example. I've been doing this for a long time. And I've noticed that when I go into school cafeterias that on average, parents will pack 6 food items, usually in some sort of Ziploc bag, and 1 drink. And they do that because they just want their kid to eat something, especially when these kids only have 20 to 25 minutes to get into the cafeteria, eat, and exit. As a matter of fact, a couple years ago, I actually took a poll nationwide about this, and on average in the United States, our elementary school kids get 22 minutes to enter, eat, and exit the cafeteria. And God forbid, bless her heart, the teacher's running a little bit late, or maybe a little kid drops his lunchbox and things spill in the hall. Like, there's always stuff that happens. So we've got to come up with ways that when they do sit down to eat, they can get in a good, nutritious lunch, but they can still talk to their friends. They want to visit with their friends too, just like all of us do when we go out to lunch with each other. So let me show you a little trick using these Post-it notes that I was just telling you about. If you tuned in late, this is what we're talking about right here. Okay? All right. What you're going to do is, first of all, I really don't want you to send a lot of little packages like this. These are little gluten-free crackers. And you know what? Sometimes it's just convenient and you got to do it. But if you're not going to pour it into like a big bento box, which I'll show you in a minute, what I want you to do is before you throw it in your kid's lunchbox, I want you to just snip off the top. Look, guys, now they're open. Fold them over. Pull out one of your little Post-it notes. They're so easy. And all you do is tape it right there. Now they're sealed. Look at that. But even my kids with fine motor challenges can grab onto one of these and just pop it right open. And then they can seal it back up if they don't finish the crackers, so there's no waste. I use these little, I know, isn't that cool? I use these all the time. I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways to use them. They're very inexpensive. And now that school is starting, be sure you go into the school supply stores and you'll find these for like 50% off and just stock up for the year. All right. So again, I would really prefer that you don't have a bunch of packages for kids because if they only have 22 minutes to enter, eat, and exit, you don't want them spending even 1 minute with their arm up going, Mrs. Potock, can you help me open this? They're not eating when they're doing that. They've got to be able to open their lunchbox rather quickly and reach in and start eating. So, best solution for that is either get yourself, these are really inexpensive. These are easy lunch boxes. and they are the top selling lunchbox on Amazon. Look, they come with this easy open lid in all different colors, and they're great. You know, they've obviously got 3 compartments. They have this great tab, especially for kids who have trouble opening. And then everything is going to be right in there. Now I'm going to also include a video on my YouTube channel for you that explains a little bit more how to use these, and you can learn more about them in my Picky Eater video course as well. And I'll put a coupon code there for you in case you want 20% off to take that course. But let me show you how to do these. All right. I have a bunch of different things for you. I thought about doing this in my kitchen, but actually I think I can show you a little bit better if I'm here at my desk. What I want to show you is I've got a little container here of just some fruit. These are mandarin oranges just in just fruit juice. Now, I'm not a big fan of these actually because they're so messy to open, and the kids can't get these tabs open. But they're convenient, and a lot of times you can get them on sale, and sometimes it's just nice to throw in something that you're sure the kid's going to eat. You just got to get it open. So ideally, I want you to open it, drain it, or get a bigger can, of course, and just put it right into your easy lunchbox container or another one of the bento boxes I'll show you in a minute. If you can't do that, then what I want you to do is get your Post-it notes again. And before we started tonight, I don't know if you can see this that well, but this one's got juice in it, this one doesn't. So all I did was down in my kitchen a few seconds ago, I just put a tiny slit in the plastic top. I turned it over and just let all the water drain out while I was packing the rest of the lunch. And now what you can do is you can put this right into your easy lunchbox, and it's not going to spill, especially if you take one of your Post-it notes that I told you about and stick it right on top. It is totally sealed down. And all the kids have to do is just lift that up. And what I would suggest also is to give the edge a little bit of a pull, and then I would seal it back with one of these as well, so that they can peel it off that much easier. But again, it's really better just to put it right into the container. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Another tip for you though, if you've got one of these and it's got applesauce in it or maybe even yogurt, one thing you can do is poke a hole in it. Remember, this is yogurt or applesauce. And then get one of these wide straws. This one's paper, so it's fine for the environment. And just poke it right in. And now the kids can hold it and just suck away, and they don't have to spoon or make a mess or even find the spoon. So what I like to do is I just take the straw, and I usually put it right on top. You could even use that little Post-it tab if you wanted to keep it in place. And then all the kids have to do is poke it in. Now, if you wanted, you could also use, you could also put a little pouch in there. You know, on my website, you're going to find a lot of articles on the pros and cons of pouches. Speech therapists like myself, we're not real keen on pouches, but we also know that for some kids, it's a good way to go, just temporarily. And there's a lot of pros and cons. We're not going to go into it today, but what I'll do is I'll put the links to all those articles, including one that was just appeared in the New York Times with some of my tips, in the comments here in just a little bit. Okie dokie, back to my easy lunchbox. So the only minor thing about easy lunchboxes is A, they're awesome because they're inexpensive, but B, they're not leak proof. So if you want to include a little something that like some dip or this container of mandarin oranges like we talked about, be sure that you find some way to keep it sealed, so when the kids just pop off that easy lid, they're not going to spill, and it's not going to spill in your brand new lunchbox. But look what I did here. What I've created here is what I call grab and gab food, just so that you can see a little bit better. Let me see if I'm going to take this out so y'all can see a little bit better. And what I've got here is not only, look guys, these are energy bites. You can get all different types, all different recipes for energy bites in Raising a Healthy Happy Eater. You can see it right behind me there. And we have actually a chart that shows you how to make, oh, I don't know, 6 or 7 different versions of these that you can make with the kids. And they store in the refrigerator all week. That's what these are, but look what I did. I actually cut these into little bite-sized pieces. So this is something I want you to pay attention to. Do you have a kid who does better if he puts a big old energy bite in his mouth? Can he manage it? Does he seem to eat faster if he has a bigger bite and he's safe? Or do you have a kid who would do better with one cut into 4 little pieces? Most of the children that I work with who are really hesitant eaters actually will eat more if they can pop it in their mouth, chew 2 or 3 times, grab another one while they're swallowing, pop it in their mouth, much like the way you and I eat popcorn at the movie theater. If you grab a big old handful of popcorn and try to put it in your mouth, it actually takes you longer to chew and swallow. So think about maybe your child would do better with what I call a little bean-sized bite rather than like a large tomato, like a baby tomato sized bite. Okay, this is what I call grab and gab food. I don't even have to look in here. I can just pick it up, pop it in my mouth, and gab with my friends. Grab a drink of water here, bear with me. Another way that you can get kids really focused on eating when they only have a limited amount of time is to put everything on skewers. Now this one might surprise you. One of the things about the kids I work with is they have very limited number of foods that they'll eat. Like I have one child right now who randomly will eat cherry tomatoes and one particular type of bread. So imagine that, to put a handful of cherry tomatoes and then a piece of bread in his lunchbox. How can we change that up? Well, first of all, he's the type of child that if he went to just pick up a whole piece of bread, he would probably just hold it, take a bite, and sort of zone out. And the bread would be right here, and he'd totally forget that he had it in his hand. Now, other kids, they love it in their hand, and they'll eat away. So think about what type of child you have and what would work best for them. But for this little kid, I like to put on a skewer because, first of all, I know he's going to get bread, tomato, bread, tomato, bread, tomato, and not just eat the bread. And he can either eat it this way or he can pull it off one at a time, whatever it happens to be. Another tip is when you put things on skewers, first of all, it's super fun to do this with your kids the night before, and now they're handling the food, even if it's a food they're not familiar with. So for example, this skewer would be perfect for a kid who eats string cheese and turkey, but he doesn't eat tomatoes. But look where I put the tomato. I put it right in the middle. So what's this kid gonna have to do? Either he's gonna pull off the turkey or eat it this way, but sooner or later, no matter which end he starts on, he's gonna end up with a tomato. And you know what he's gonna do? He's just gonna pull it off and put it in his lunchbox. That is awesome because he just touched a tomato. That's how it starts. One little tomato, sooner or later, especially if your child's in feeding therapy, will get to tomatoes, but you've got to keep exposing them. So stick one right here in the middle so that he feels safe about it. You could even put it on the end if you wanted, but I tend to go in the middle because, as I said, either way that he starts, he ends up having to at least pull the tomato off and get a little bit of exposure to a tomato. You can do that with any sort of food. And then I also wanted to mention too that look at this lunch meat. What I did was I rolled it up before I skewered it, and there's a little method to my madness there. A lot of parents will offer lunch meat, but that's kind of funky in a kid's mouth, and it's really thin. It's a lot like lettuce, and it peels off, and it feels different every single time. But if you offer something that's rolled or even folded really tightly, and you know what, if your child can tolerate some cream cheese or some, gosh, even some provolone or something in between, that's cool too, but I'm keeping this simple for the purpose of tonight. But look, when it's rolled up like that and they take a bite into it, they'll get a lot more substance. They'll be able to feel it better in their mouth. Ideally, I would love a nice slice of turkey breast cut into little cubes. So think about that too in terms of grab and gab food. And then I also wanted to mention that, you know, don't hesitate if you've got a kid who eats a lot of string cheese or whatever it happens to be, to just pair it with a little piece of fruit. It doesn't have to be in separate containers, and the beauty of it is, you know, he's going to get a little bit of everything this way. He's not going to come home with, he only ate the cheese, because these kids are so highly distracted in the cafeteria. And then finally, I wanted to share these with you too, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some other strategies with different lunchbox. These, I get these at Costco and at Target. And these are these little Garden Lights chocolate muffins. Now, they don't have a lot of calories, but they do have a lot of vegetables. And what I love about them is this one's frozen. You throw it in your lunchbox, and by the time you get to school, it's perfect. You typically would microwave it in the morning to, you know, get it to room temperature. But by the time you get to school, it's absolutely perfect. But again, what you got to do is remember to at least put a little bit of a slit in there. It won't be stale. It's going to be in your lunchbox, so that all the kids have to do is just rip it open, or you can use your Post-it notes that we talked about. All right? Okie doke. So those are some ideas with the easy lunchbox. And let's go ahead and talk about, I've got so much to show you here. I don't know where to start. Let's talk about drinks. All right. If you've ever come to any of my courses, you know that I'm a big fan of Kids Protein Shake by Orgain. And I don't benefit financially if you buy these. I just love them. But I did want to show you a little trick. Once again, make sure wherever you're packing lunches, you have some kitchen shears. Because I love the straw that comes in these little milk boxes, except sometimes for my children with fine motor challenges, they're a little bit hard to get out of the plastic wrap. So all I do is I don't even take it off the side of the box. I just snip off the top of the plastic, and that way when my child pulls it off, it comes right out of the plastic, and he's not waiting for Mrs. Smith to come over and help him get a straw out of there. These are super easy to poke right in the top. But the other thing you can use them for is, don't hesitate to send some cereal to school, just some dry cereal, and all your kiddo has to do is poke his hole in with his straw, right? And then these are so easy and they're not messy. You just turn it over and you can squirt a little bit of milk right on the cereal, and you can have cereal and milk and some kids protein shake too, and get a nice nutritious lunch in a really short amount of time, especially if you want to include some berries or something on the side as well. So something to think about there. I also like to freeze these so that by the time they get to the school cafeteria, especially if they have a little bit later lunch, then I just teach them to give it a good shake, and then it's kind of frosty and yummy, especially in the summertime. Let me show you another thing that you might consider. You know, speech therapists, we use these all the time. These are called honey bears, and they are used to help a child learn to drink from a straw. Speaking of, if you go to my free toolbox page on melaniepotock.com, there's a handout that you can download for free, 10 steps to teaching a child to drink from a straw. Now this one is the little mini one. And you can get these off the internet. They're really inexpensive. Just make sure when you order them that you get the one that has the little hole right here and not just the lid that pops off. You want a hole for the straw. Okie doke. Now you can fill this with kefir. You could fill it with your kid's favorite yogurt and just dilute it a little bit. You could put a smoothie in there and freeze half the smoothie and then add the rest of the smoothie in the morning. Then the kids learn to give it a shake, and just being sure to include a skinny straw that they can pop right in there. When they're all done, practice this at home, maybe during dinner. Have them pull out the straw and snap it closed, and it's totally spill proof. So you do want to teach them that step. But yet another way to get some really good nutrition in for your child. You know what else is great in here? Soup. A lot of my kids will drink tomato soup, even if it's at room temperature, which maybe to you and I doesn't sound that appetizing, but you know, think about gazpacho, right? A lot of kids will drink things that you'd be surprised, and you get a lot of good calories in. I have a little girl right now who loves avocado and chocolate milk, and we just whip it up and then we put it in one of these, and it's such a nutritious drink for her, and it makes mom feel better that she knows she's getting some good nutrition in the middle of the day. Let's take a look at a couple other tips, and then we're almost ready for questions. Now, guys, this is something, if you've ever been to any of my courses, you know I talk a lot about this lunchbox. This is my favorite lunchbox. It's called a Yumbox, and the reason why I love it so much is it's totally spill-proof. There are lots of other lunchboxes out there that are awesome too. The reason why I like this one is this is the one that I use to teach kids to pack their own lunch. I like all of my hesitant eaters to pack their own lunch, even if they only eat 3 foods. I'm not going to go into the reason why right now, but I'll share it in the comments. And again, I'm going to put it up here in the corner when I upload this to YouTube. And you'll be able to watch a video on that. The reason why I love this lunchbox so much is, first of all, it comes in really fun colors and all different types of trays. You can get a tray that looks similar to the Easy Lunchbox with just a big sandwich and 2 little compartments. But this is the one I actually prefer for most of my kids, unless they're in high school. This one has a spot for dairy, fruit, vegetables, grains, and protein. And then it even has a little spot right here for, I don't know, ranch dressing or maybe some chocolate chips, a little treat. And when you close it, look at this. Pop. It's so easy to open and close, but the top makes it all spill-proof. Do you see this rubberized top right here? It literally almost suctions onto the tray. Speaking of, the other reason why I love it, and again, I probably should get a commission because I'm so big on these, but I don't have any financial relationship with this wonderful company. I just love their box. Look at this. The tray comes right out. I like that because you can put these in the top rack of the dishwasher, the whole lunch box you can, but also you can stack these. Let me see if I can show you here. You can make lunches for the week and stack them in the refrigerator, and it almost acts like a seal on top, and then just put some saran wrap on the top one. So you could literally have 5 of these all stacked up, just pull out the one you want, stick it in your Yumbox, and you're off to school. So let's talk about what I've got in this one. Let's see. I wanted to show you. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Now, in the dairy section, I'm trying to tilt this just so you can see. I actually have yogurt. For sure, you could take a little piece of tape and put a spoon right on top of your Yumbox. You don't want kids searching in the bottom of their backpack for a spoon, etc. Just tape it right to the top. Or just take a little straw. You want to keep it pretty short. And if you've got something thick like yogurt, make sure it's a nice wide one. And it could fit right here. And then all the kids do is pick it up, lean over, and they can drink their yogurt right out of the dairy section. Now, I prefer that my kids have plain yogurt, and then I take a little bit of natural jelly, meaning like an organic jelly with no extra sugar, etc., more like a preserve, and I just put a stripe of it right down the middle, and the kids, they love to kind of stir it up. Or you could do the same thing with honey, and then it's funny, they just suck and suck and suck, and that yogurt's gone so quickly. That's what you want. Now, the other thing you can do is, here's that cereal I was telling you about. The kids could either just eat it plain, just grab and gab, or they could add some milk to it for sure. But look what I did here. These are those little baby bells. And this is in the protein section. It could also go in dairy, of course. Look what I did. I already took the wrapper off. Get rid of that wrapper. The kids don't have time to open it. And take it all the way down to the wax so that they can easily peel it apart and eat it. Or you can absolutely take the wax all the way off. That's no big deal. This is sealed tight. It's not going to get stale. But here's something I want you to think about. I want you to put your cheese in the coldest part of your refrigerator so that by the time it gets to school, it's still a little bit firm and a little bit chilled. Or take your little packet of blue ice and make sure it's right over the cheese. So many of my kids will eat cheese at home, but they won't eat it at school. And it's because it's warmed up too much, and then it kind of becomes wiggly and pretty aromatic, frankly. Let me show you another tip. The other thing I want you to consider is that if you have one of those little kids who nibbles like this, and they're eating little tiny bites, and you're like, eat. A little trick is to take some scissors and just snip the edges of the cheese before it goes in their lunchbox. Now what they'll do is when they go to take a bite, a piece, you get to watch me eat, sorry. Look how big that is. Pops right off, depending on how big a snip you made. They can't nibble on it. It automatically falls off in their mouth. So again, helping these kids eat faster. Okay, now I have cheese in my mouth. Hang on a second. I want to show you something else that's kind of fun. I really love my kids to pack their lunches with me, as I've been telling you. But here's a little girl who put cauliflower in the vegetable section for the first time. She doesn't like cauliflower, but we're putting it in there just so she's exposed to it. Little tiny piece of cauliflower. But what we did was, here's the trick, we put it in a little tiny cupcake holder. And the reason why I did that is I made a big deal about it with her. I said, hey, let's give the cauliflower a little special bed to lay in. So we put the little cupcake holder in there, and then we put the cauliflower on top, and we said good night. We were being silly because we're 4. And you know what's going to happen when she gets to pre-K tomorrow? She'll probably pick up the cauliflower and show all of her friends his polka dotted blanket. What is she doing now? She's holding cauliflower at school. Again, that's awesome. And if this one piece of cauliflower comes back uneaten, it goes right in the fridge. It won't go bad. It's not a big deal. A little bit like that is really, really important just to help these kids with exposure. Okay, let's look at a few more, and then we're ready for questions. So be sure to type in your questions for me. One thing I wanted to be sure to talk about, I have peanut butter on my string cheese, is I wanted to be sure to talk about packaging around a string cheese too. These things are so like which end do I even open? I think it's up here. I mean, you guys, I can't even do this. I seriously can't get this open. So here's what you do instead. All you do is take your scissors and you're going to cut this right in half. And then you've got 2 pieces in the lunchbox, and look how easy this is. It just comes right up. So the kids don't even have to touch the cheese. If they have some sensory challenges, they've got a little wrap around it and they can just nibble away. Or if you want, you could chop it up into more grab and gab pieces or put it on a skewer like we talked about. But look, look, look. In this easy lunchbox, I've got a new tray all packed up for you. I actually have a stick and a half of dairy in here. It's fine with me if a kid wants to eat a stick and a half instead of 1 stick of cheese. That makes me feel better. It's just lunch, you know? And then the other thing I did is a lot of kids love these little fruit leathers, and they're not the greatest for your teeth. You know, sometimes it's fun to have something in there that's just a little different and fun. Again, be sure that you use your scissors, snip off the top. You actually don't have to seal these back up. They won't get stale inside that lunchbox, but if you wanted to use a Post-it note, you definitely could to seal it up like we talked about earlier. What I would probably do, though, is I've got my fruit leather there. I would probably put in, this one's strawberry or raspberry. I would probably put in just a few of the matching fruit, even if they're not eating raspberries yet, just so they get exposure to that and they have some sense of, oh yeah, that's the same flavor. Oh yeah, that's made out of raspberries. This is also raspberries. And we can bridge that gap a little bit. Here's another tip for you. Now, in the grain section, you could definitely chop up some bread or put some crackers in there, but don't put a whole lot because kids tend to just chow down on fish crackers, and then it's time to leave the cafeteria and they've gotten almost no nutrition. Crackers are more a vehicle for protein, etc. So for this little one, I don't know, I put maybe 8 or 9 little crackers, and I added the spoon because unless your school has to be peanut free, then you might use like a sun butter. But this little one has a whole tablespoon, that's almost 80, 90 calories of high protein peanut butter. that they can scoop out with a spoon, or they can dip their little crackers in. Make sure you use little ones and get some out that way. But you know what I did to really make sure they see that peanut butter is I just put 3 chocolate chips in there, 2 on top, and make sure they know there's 1 on the bottom, because then they're really going to dig in. But if you include a little spoon, they won't get too big of a bite, because we don't want kids to have a big bite of peanut butter. That's can be chokeable. That's just the right size for, you know, a little 4-year-old, totally fine. And then finally, here's our turkey again. I tried to always kind of repeat the same foods just to give you some variation. But instead of just having one fancy little toothpick to put it on, look guys, every single one of these has a toothpick. A lot of people like to include fun toothpicks in their bento boxes, but the problem is, especially for some of my kids who have fine motor challenges, if they're spending too much time trying to poke and get the turkey up, I don't want that. I want them to be able to just pick it up, eat it, put it down, pick up another one, eat it, put it down, especially if they're not willing to touch the turkey itself, but they are willing to eat it off a fun toothpick. Yeah, and last thing, and then we are all ready to take some of your questions. See these vegetables right here? These are sugar snap peas, but I did something different with them. Most sugar snap peas have this little pointy end that a lot of us don't like to eat. These were ones right out of my garden, so it's got a little leaf on there too. And before I help this child pack the lunch or have them do this, get them some kitchen child-safe shears and just have them snip off that little bit. Then when they get to school, they're not like nibbling it or picking it off. That takes too much time. They can just pop it in their mouth and eat it. So snip off all those little pointy ends to raw vegetables. The tips of carrots, a lot of kids don't like the tips of carrots, and they'll spend all this time trying to break it off. Just get rid of that before they even pack.